Jericho, he was an absolute legend. Talk about the lifesavers and so on. He was one of the first on the coast at Kira. His dad, King Conway, from one of the tribes there, he sent him down to look after the people off Greenmount Hill. And he went down, he said, they're in our country, we need to look after them. So that's what it's all about, sharing and caring. You know, the land is for everybody. So Jericho, he, in a sense, was a legend.
The Spirit of Churukai, to me, it's a production, but it catches the story of who Churukai was and what the Spirit of Churukai and how that plays out in community today. So that's through music and dance and visuals. For us, it was important that we followed our protocols about consulting our eldership. Churukai, even though he's a hero to a lot of people and his stories happen, but he's also a real person, and whatever we did, whatever it looks like, the production that we come up with, that it still kept integrity for who he was, but also who we are as a people and that our cultural principles.
And we just basically use a normal musical technique called jamming to get to the heart of the music and take the traditional songs and make them, not try to gentrify them, but just try to enhance them in contemporary ways. My musical background, I started out playing punk rock, acoustic kind of punk rock with Violent Femmes. So in a sense, it's a similar process. What we do in the Femmes is what we're doing in the Spirit of Churukai, taking traditional elements and then making them personal.
And it's just an amazing story, his father saying, hey, there's people dying on our land, on our country, you need to go and help them. So to be able to then take that story and the essence of who that person was and the power of it, even in performing it, the traditional songs fused with the contemporary music has just been amazing. It's been a really powerful process.
It starts as a real strong traditional kind of influence in most of the work that we're doing, but then also the individual styles of the musicians. And we approach it like we approach anything in our community. So culturally for us, we believe that no one has all the knowledge and everyone has something to contribute. So in the process, everybody's contributed something to what it is. So that process for us has been real interesting. It's not just I do my little bit and you do a little bit, it's all together. And that's our way.
I think the significance of Churukai's rescues is that they were actually carried out prior to the formation of the Coolangatta Surf Club in Coolangatta in 1909. And then, of course, he had the recorded rescue in 1911 on March the 5th, where he saved the life of Mr. McGonigal at Coolangatta Beach. The Royal Humane Society of Australasia wrote to Churukai and they say, "Dear Sir, I am instructed by the General Court of Directors of the Royal Humane Society of Australasia to write to you this letter of commendation of your successful efforts in rescuing Mr. McGonigal from drowning at Coolangatta Beach on March the 5th, 1911. My directors feel that your promptitude resulted in the saving of life and that you are entitled to have your name included in the roll of those who have received the commendation of this society. Yours faithfully, R.W.E. Wilmot, Secretary. A newspaper article from 1934 read, "The first life-saving club had been established following a brave rescue by an Aboriginal man named Churikai. From his actions had sprung the great surf life-saving movement of Queensland."
You can definitely hear the influence of being a people that live right on the ocean. So you can hear that influence, and then there's slathers of reggae through there, rock, and the traditional chants, some of the traditional songs.
Spirit of Churikai project was a really cool thing for me because I was kind of stuck in the middle between a lot of our cultural knowledge holders and a lot of our elders, but also a lot of the guys that have been in the music scene, like Brian Ritchie and Greg and Vero and Sam. They've been in that music scene for longer than I've been alive, and so it was cool for me because I had so much to learn. It was an interesting kind of process, taking our traditional songs and transferring them into that style of music, which is something that's never really been done before.
It's humble. It's really beautiful, humble music written by people who they're writing and singing and performing from the purest place possible because they're telling you their family stories. I really value that. I think in a lot of contemporary music settings that is lost.
You know, people sometimes talk about reconciliation, but then you come to a project like this and it's reconciliation in action. It just goes, everything melds together. So these stories, there's a melting pot of stories from the local Indigenous side, but also then the non-Indigenous people who are a part of that story.
A lot of these songs tie into the land, to the people's relationship with the land, and even extending this concept to the universe and to other parts of the world.
I think audiences can expect something like they've never experienced before, like never. So it's going to be amazing, mind-blowing, and not just mind-blowing, but a deeper sense of connection to country and the story of this land and the people in this country and this land, yeah. And then how that interconnect, because it was a black story and a white story, you know, and how those two lots of people came together over that certain amount of time.
We talk about, in our language, we talk about Guriabu, and Guriabu means long time. But that could be a long time ago, but it can be a long time in the future, you know. So Guriabu represents that for us. So in relation to this story, when we consider this story, we consider Churikai, we have to consider our elders and him as an ancestor and who he was and what he stood for and what's his story. Because we're telling, even in telling his story and making work around his story, we add to that story. And we have to be considerate of our grandchildren. As we add to that story, what will they take off from our story in that? And those stories continue, you know, like, and that's for thousands of years. Our old people, and we've passed on those stories, and we want it to be a good one. When we think of, we always have to remember, it's always there for us. Guriabu is what we always got to consider in all the actions that we do, you know.